Within our souls, we all possess a dream which lay dormant until intrigue strikes its match and sets the torch we carry ablaze, leading us down the path of the unknown towards our dreams. As coaches who are former high-performance athletes, our personal experiences have shown us that a coach, parent, or even a fellow athlete have the potential to either illuminate or extinguish the dreams of young athletes. Nothing is lost from the candle which lights another. We are here to share our stories and our passion to illuminate the champion within, empowering coaches, parents, and athletes to keep the flame of their dreams burning eternally. You are listening to Illuminating Champions with Michal and Ashley Anton. Welcome to another episode of Illuminating Champions. For our first-time listeners, my name is Ashley, and I'm here with my husband, Michal.
Hey, how are you?
We also have a very special guest with us who's going to be interviewing us today. He is our personal coach and our brand artist. His name is Mark Patterson. Hi, Mark.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, Mark.
Hi.
So today's episode is entitled The Comfort of Falling. And it's all about taking one of the most uncomfortable situations, falling, during competition, during practice, and even during life when you stumble and feel like you've fallen, and showing everyone that you have the power to overcome this downfall by standing back up and rising from your fall and becoming an even greater version of yourself. It's to help athletes learn that falling, although uncomfortable, is inevitable and it is normal, and to help them learn that they can overcome this by believing in themselves. It's to help parents and coaches learn how to help the athlete uplift themselves and to make sure they allow them this room to feel that it's okay to fall as long as they stand back up. So in order to help parents and coaches and even athletes better understand this concept, Mark is going to be asking us some questions to help us further this conversation and uplift everyone in their journey. So why don't you start us off, Mark?
Since gymnastics is a sport that's based on flawless execution, in fact, as you informed me, which I wasn't aware of, the compulsory part of the competition, they do the exact same routine by the book down to the details that I wasn't aware of that. So it all comes down to flawless execution. So does that mean that most gymnasts are perfectionists? And if they are, is that a good thing?
Yes, it does mean that most gymnasts are perfectionists. Perfectionists are pretty much drawn to this sport even before they discover that it takes that perfectionist mindset in order to do it. So it is beneficial in some ways to be a perfectionist because that means that they're always striving for that flawless execution. They're always aiming to better themselves, and they're always paying attention to the very small details, which are going to allow them to execute their routines as perfect as possible. And of course, when it's something compulsory, meaning every single competitor has the same identical routine, even down to the direction that they turn their head during the choreography, that perfectionist mindset is going to allow that gymnast the capability of following that routine to a T and really executing it the best that she can. On the other half of that, though, that perfectionist mindset, if it's not guided correctly, yes, it can become their biggest nemesis because they are always having in their head that they have to be perfect.
It's like a sword with two sharp blades.
Yes,
right?
It's a double-edged sword,
double-edged sword, yes.
Yeah. Do you want to continue this thought?
Yes. Like when someone has that mindset to be perfectionist, obviously they're going to push themselves to the limit to be perfect. And in achieving that, they are going to hurt themselves sometimes without realizing because they're going to push themselves way too much. Then as a coach and as a parent, you have to notice that and guide them correctly by also teaching them that at the end of the day, they are humans and they're not going to be perfect all the time because no human is perfect and not even the computers are perfect, right?
Right.
You have a glitch on the computer sometimes, the camera can froze, right? And they're
Right.
high technology and they still make mistakes. Then they have to be comfortable with the idea that, yes, you want to be perfect, you train to be the best, but we talked in the past about those things. You are going to make a mistake, you are going to fall, you are going to not be the best one day or some days. And you just have to learn why that happened, how that happened, what are the correction from getting back and doing better, and stand up and go back and try again,
Right.
that's
Well, that's
and
really it.
do it without being reprimanded, is the word.
Reprimanded.
Yes, and like I said in a past episode, like win with pride and humbleness and lose with pride and humbleness. Like when you lose, keep your pride, don't give it away.
Mm-hmm.
Like just because you did a mistake that day, just because you didn't have the best execution that day, that doesn't make you less athlete than you was the day before when you win, right? Let's say like last week you win a competition and you win in girls gymnastics.
Mm-hmm.
They have 4 events. Boys, they have 6 plus all around, plus a team. Final, you
Right.
can win, right? But let's say just in an individual event, you win all around and the other 6 events in boys gymnastics. And the next week, you have a bad day and you fall on every event. Now you are less good of a gymnast than you was a week ago. No, you are the same athlete. You just did some mistakes or whatever that day happened. I don't know. You had a little fever, your stomach bothered you. Like you have to take everything in consideration and see why that poor performing happened.
Mm-hmm.
And also you have to understand too, like you may win, like in boys, I said you have 6 events, girls 4. You may win one event, you're very good at it.
Right.
You may struggle to the other one. You may win other one, and then you win all around at the end of the competition. Then you're not gonna win everything. It's very rare, even in the best of the best in the world. It's very rare to. I don't think so. Actually, never happened.
No, not yet.
No, not in a men's gymnastics, not in a girl gymnastics, for someone to win at an international level all the events, including like all around and team final.
Yeah.
Never happened. Why? Because it's almost impossible. You can't be perfect on everything. You cannot be perfect every time. Then you have to be fine with the fact that yes, you want to be the best, you want to be perfect, but you are human. You're gonna make mistakes. And the coaches cannot pressure you more when you go to compete. They cannot pressure you more when you compete and you don't perform well. They have to guide you correctly. And the parents have to do the same thing. Because otherwise someone who is perfectionist is going to hurt themselves.
So perfection is necessary in the mindset, but they have to know how to deal with it. Like becoming a perfectionist in life, a lot of times people are criticized for that because nothing's ever good enough, and therefore they are always disappointed, or they disappoint their coworkers, and they're just hard to get along with. But in your sport, you have to be able to see the difference. So I guess when you're a perfectionist, you see flaws better. So now
Yes.
back to coaching.
One second, but in life is the same way, like with every quality we have, everything that's good has also a positive or negative side
Right.
if it's done extremely.
Right.
Understand?
Mm-hmm.
And it's from everything from health to academics to sport to social life, interacting with people, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can be a social person that likes to go in public places and like you like to talk to people, you like to meet people. Like at one point, you're gonna bother someone with your attitude, because you're gonna find that person that doesn't like to walk in the restaurant and some strange person walk to them and start putting question about their life and like hugging them, putting their hand around them, like even though you do it because you're a social person, it's too much at
You
one point.
overdo it.
Understand?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with if you eat an apple, it's a good fruit to eat, right? It's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But eat 1 pound of apples every day. At one
It's
point,
not good.
you're not
Yeah.
gonna have a good health. Like honey is very good, right?
But
Right?
not the whole jar.
But
Yeah.
if you eat a jar of honey every day, same thing. It's not gonna be good. Like everything has a
That-
positive side and a negative
Yeah.
side, and you just have to have a limit.
Right. And that's
A
something
balance.
that's a difficult concept when gymnasts initially start the sport, because there's always constant correction to what they're doing, and they do get discouraged always in the beginning. It's always an obstacle they all go through, because it is what you just said. Like it's never good enough, no matter how hard I try. And you do have to sit them down and explain to them that their effort and their intent to make it good is always what makes it good enough. We just always trying to shine it up and polish it and look for ways to be better, but they have to be proud of their intent to do it well. And that's what they focus on. And then the correction is just expected. And it does really actually help you in life to carry that mindset over to everything else you do, because you're okay with your flaws. Then you can notice them. You're always self-reflecting on how to do better, and then you're fine with it. You're happy to make the adjustments, and you're proud of what you've already achieved.
Look, I'm going to give you an example here with having a positive skill pushed to the extreme. I used to work with Riley McCusker when she was very little, and she was a very hard worker and a perfectionist, naturally. Like, you didn't have to tell her to work hard. You didn't have to tell her, Riley, go back and do 10 more. You'll have to tell her, like, okay, that's enough. You know what I mean? Like, calm down, relax. You did it. It's like you have to, like, I had to convince her to not do more.
Right.
Understand? And I give you an example. Like, first time I started working with her, I was training the girls on bars, and she was like seven, I think, at the time. Right?
7. Yeah.
7, yes. She was tiny. This tiny little girl, like muscular, like fit, like she was like taking steroids. You know, for real. Like, she was like from the nature, like she was built like a super athlete. You know, and was on bars. Anyways, the girl was older than her by a lot, like 3 years, I think.
At
Like,
least.
at least, yeah. They was like 10 years old, and she got a rip on her hand. She
Like
didn't
your
have grips.
skin peels
Like her
off.
skin
It's very
peeled off.
painful.
It was a little blip. Like, I took the skin off, and like she was bleeding, right? And I sent her to the bathroom, and I told her, like, okay, go wash your hands and go tell the other coach, the woman that was working with me, I tell her to put you on something else. And she came behind me, and I was up on the mat like spotting, and my pants was long down to my knee. I have shorts on me. And she pulled my shorts, like I thought like someone is putting I had a heart attack because she couldn't reach, and she just grabbed the bottom of my short, like reach up and just grab the bottom and pull down. I was like, I have a heart attack. And turn around, I look at her, and she's like, can I do more bars? And I said, like, what? She's like, I'm like, your hand is ripped. Like, she's like, can you put tape? I just want to do more. I was like, okay.
Wow.
Like, she didn't want to leave bars. She wants to do it, you know? And that was like me, like working with her. I think it was the first or second practice. Like, I was starting to work with her.
So,
and then I remember, like, I finished that night, and I told her, I noticed her the first practice, but after that night, I told Ashley, I said, this girl, if she stays like this and they train her correctly, this girl is going to be like a superstar, like an Olympic
so
champion.
that's how you notice talent, when you see people that not only just have ability, but they have the heart to do things.
Yes, because it's not just natural talent; it's the work ethic. It's the work ethic, is the mentality. You know, I told you in the past, like, most of the Olympic champions are not the most talented athletes.
Right.
Are the harder work, the most disciplined, and the most work ethic ones.
Yeah.
But anyways, the story is this: like, then I left the gym, and then she moved to other gyms, and then she ended up in New Jersey at Lori Hernandez gym training with Maggie Haney, right? And you see, like, not to talk badly about Maggie Haney, that is not my intention, but Riley already was a hard worker. She was already a perfectionist. And Maggie didn't see that. She pushed her more. Understand? She didn't give Riley the room to breathe, to relax, to calm down, to bring her, like, be like, okay, we're going to take a break. Understand? Let's not practice this week. You don't have world championships till next year, you know? And she used that to push Riley more. And then she overtrained Riley. Riley, at one point, she had problems.
She medically had overtraining.
You know, but that's why, because Riley never said no. Understand? As an athlete, she never turned around and tell the coach, you know what, I'm done. I'm too tired. She was old enough. She could say it if she really want to, but she didn't, because her attitude was to not do that.
Right.
Understand? She wants to be the best. She wants to be perfect. She work hard, and she loves to work hard, Riley. You know, and that was the mistake over there, because like the coach couldn't realize that, yeah, if you tell her to do another 100 V-ups, she's going to do another 100 V-ups, but that's already overtraining because she already did maybe 300. Understand? She's not going to say no. She's going to do it till she's going to pass out. Like she's going to show up to training with one leg because she wants to work. She wants to be good. Understand? And as a coach, you have to notice those things. And that's why, like I said in a past episode, the job of the coach is not just to make the athlete very good. It's not just to teach them a trick. It's not just to teach them a technique. Understand? Is to protect them from themselves too when the moment comes. Right. Remember, I said, like last episode, I said about boxing or kickboxing or you know, MMA. The coach can throw the towel. That's why that rule is there. That's why the coach has that white towel and they throw the towel when they feel that their athlete is in danger, and in that moment the athlete cannot decide from themselves to stop. The coach stops the fight,
right,
to protect the athlete. No matter what, obviously that athlete is going to lose that fight, but you protect the athlete. You don't care. The job of the coach is not to care about the belt. It's not to care about the gold medal. In the end of the day, yes, you want to coach that athlete to become that champion. But in the way to achieving that, the athlete is in danger, you throw the towel. Sure. You take the athlete out of the arena. Understand? It's your job.
Right.
So as a coach, you're coaching the body and the mind, and you said before that the coach amplifies the athlete's emotions, positively or negatively. So how do you as a coach ensure that you're doing it the right way?
The setting always plays a large role into how you approach them. It's a little bit different during training, things you may say or things you may do in order to amplify the positive than it is during competition.
And it's also different of the level of the age of the athlete, you know.
Right. But in general, you always have to look at that athlete with a positive attitude. You always have to have the notion to uplift them, no matter how much they're struggling, no matter how frustrating it is for them, or even frustrating for you at times to watch them struggle. You can't show them that you're frustrated. You have to always show them that there's a solution to make it better. And if an athlete is getting in this mindset that they're becoming negative because they do something wrong, sometimes it takes one turn to do it wrong, and it's a downhill spiral from there, depending on the athlete's personality and how perfectionist they are. You have to really reel them back in by telling them the positive of what they did. You always start with that, like, oh, this time that was better. You kept your legs straighter. Now next time, try to also do this. And you get their mindset on the positive first and the correction second. But during competition, I'm going to let Mihal talk about this one because this is a moment he loves so much during competition, to make sure that he is uplifting everyone. And it's different than training because you only have a couple seconds to do it. Where in training, you're training a few hours, you have longer if you need to have a discussion.
And you have more chances, like in training, like if you fell one time and you didn't get injured, we can go back and we can fix it. And, you know, I mean, doesn't count.
Right.
Put it that way. But in competition is that
it's one chance.
One chance, one opportunity. You have that guy, Eminem, I think he wrote that song.
Yes.
I like
Lose
that song.
yourself.
Yeah, I like that. I actually like it because it's very real.
Yeah.
Life is like that sometimes too. Like you have one chance, one opportunity, and then you lose it and it's done. Understand?
Right.
Then you look back at your life and you're like, I could do that, but I
missed it. Yeah.
I missed it, you know.
So how long does a typical routine last? 45 seconds, a minute? I mean,
it depends on the level, but like a minute and a half. And it depends on the apparatus that you're on as well.
Years of training comes down to a minute.
Right. So all those years of training, when you watch the Olympics, the girls are performing for like under 10 minutes.
Wow.
The girls
all those years and all those hours.
The girls that go to the Olympics, they train, let's say they start gymnastics like at around 5 will be the great age to start.
Yeah.
But they 6 years old, 7 years old, and let's start from there. They compete at 16. That's at least 9 years, between 10 years and 9 years. It's a straight training, understand? Like
it's a year-round sport.
It's not like other sports, like as hard as they are, you can start let's boxing at
Right.
18. If you're naturally gifted, you have power, you can hit someone and knock them out. You get into boxing, you can become Olympic champion pretty fast. You know what I mean? Like by the time you're 20, 21, you can go to the Olympics, and based on your natural abilities, you
Sure.
take people's head off and knock them out and you win, you know, or become a pro champion. Where in gymnastics, you can be as gifted as Simone Biles and Nadia Comaneci together. You start gymnastics at 13.
It's normally too late.
Yeah, you're going to do some flips that people are going to be impressed with you, that you got to do a double layout at 15 years old and you start at 13, but you're not going to end up an Olympic champion like Simone Biles used to be, you know. And maybe she's going to be again now when she's coming back.
I don't know. We will see.
I don't know.
We will see.
So during that 1 minute, of a routine, obviously the athlete is just, their mind is going a million miles an hour. The pressure is intense. So how do you as a coach, even during that minute or before that minute, how do you help them understand and buffer that pressure so they can create their best performance?
First, you have to notice the athlete mental in that moment. Understand mental state in that moment, because from competition to competition can change, especially at a young age. You talk about like 9 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old, can change. Like one competition, they can walk in super confident. I don't know, they sleep well at night time and they wake up in the morning and they just feel like they can rule the world. And then in the next competition, they come in and they are like a chicken in the rain. Did you ever see a chicken in the rain? Like, they are all scared and shaking. And it depends, depends on the situation. You look at them, and then based on that, you give them the right advice in that moment. But always that advice has to do with them going out to perform the best routine no matter what. Understand? And trying to make them understand, like, yes, that's what I do with my girls. I tell them all the time, I want you to go out on that floor, on that beam, on that bars, on that vault, and do the best possible. And if you fail, don't worry about it. We're going to make the correction. We're going to make the adjustment. We're going to go back in training and we're going to fix it. As long as you don't get injured. And also, they're not going to get injured, because then, in my opinion, like, I compete, and then I know how I felt when my coaches didn't do that. Then I know for sure that she's going to go on that floor, and even if she does a mistake, it's going to be a control mistake, because she's not going to be so emotional, like, that she's not going to be able to process correctly. Right. She's just going to go blindfold. Yes, like her mind is going to be just like automatic pilot, Then she's not going to get hurt. And if she does a mistake, then it's easy to explain it to her. And most of the time when we're at competition, like, they go to perform a routine, and if whatever they did, very short, I say, okay, good job, this is good, boom, high five, let's go next event. I don't even talk about the event that we did. I move to the next one, understand? And especially when they did a mistake on that event, I'm like, forget about it, we're going to talk about it. Let's move, what's next? And they ask them funny, like, do you know what's the next event? And they're like, yeah, beam. Okay, let's think about beam. Let's talk about that. So, and also, I don't let them, sorry to interrupt you, I don't let them, I teach them, because you cannot not let them, they're still going to look. I teach them to not look at the scores and to not look around. Understand? To not look at other athletes, because I always tell them, like, you watch a girl on floor, and you see, that's something that the coaches has to teach the athlete how to compete. I told you before, competing, it's a skill. The coach has to teach that skill of competing and how to control your emotion during competition and how to not get high emotion during competition.
Right.
Then my girls, I teach them, like, don't look at other girls. Don't watch someone else competing. Don't watch someone else getting a score. You don't care about that. You care about yourself. When you go there, you focus on your routine, my corrections, and that's all you care. Because you're going to watch, and I give them example. I say, you watch someone on floor. She goes on floor and she gets a 9.7. But now you are a good competitor on floor. You can get a 9.8. But because she got a 9.7, you start feeling the pressure that she puts on you with that execution. Then maybe you look at her, and for example, in your level, you can compete around that handspring layout, or you can compete around that handspring full layout, which is a harder trick, right? but she did a full layout and you are doing a layout. Now you're looking at her that she did a full layout and you're like, oh my gosh, she's so much better than me. But your bow routine starts from a perfect 10. Now it's not coming down to she did a harder trick, it's coming down to execution. Right. And if you are going on the floor and you perform your routine, you are going to beat her. But if you watch her, you get impressed by her routine, understand? And that's going to put an extra pressure on you. Then as a coach, you have to teach those psychological things to the athletes. They have to know how to deal with those things at a young age. And it's your job as a coach to go out there and teach them in training how to deal with competition day.
Right.
Yeah, so gymnastics is all about, gymnastics is a sport based upon flawless execution and perfectionists who understand the nuance between good and great and perfect. But from the day one when they get there, they have to learn to fall, because even if they develop the skill to see what's perfection, they physically, mentally can't achieve it for a while. So you have a really tough job of guiding them through that minefield of success and failure. So it's a really
in gymnastics, listen, you come to do a recreational class, the first thing you do, you're going to fall.
Yeah.
Like even if I put you to climb a mat, you're going to climb the mat and fall on the other side. Like you have to learn how to climb the mat, jump off and land on your feet. You understand? Right. Like falling is part of everyday life in gymnastics. That's why I said it's very good for young kids to do gymnastics also, because teach you the notion of falling and standing up.
Yes.
Which then transfer in real life. Like you go to school and one time you don't get a good grade, right? You're not going to just get depressed and be like, you know what, I'm not smart, right? And that's it. I'm not good at math. I'm just going to not pass math, and I'm going to get out of school and I'm going to, I don't know, work. I'm going to wash windows. No, you didn't get that good grade. Go back, study.
Right.
And I said, now you have that in you because you learn how to deal with falling.
You know? So mastering the art of falling. I did judo for a while. What's the first thing they teach you? How to fall.
How to fall.
Because you are going to be thrown so many times.
Judo, that's every day in judo. They toss you up and down. Like you're gonna hit that mat. Like I'm better off bringing the carpet from home and putting on the floor, and my athletes is gonna dust the carpets. You know, like.
But
judo, it's a sport like that.
And in that sport, you got to get back up. You can't just stay there. And that's in life and with every other sport, that you have something you can fall down on. Yeah. And in gymnastics, the tendency is for students to not even want to try to learn something because they're initially afraid that they're going to mess it up.
But that's not just in gymnastics. That's in everything.
That's what I was going to say. That's in everything in life. And you never want to hold yourself back from trying to do something just because you're afraid it might come out wrong. And gymnastics and sports in general are a great way for kids to learn from a young age that it's normal to try something and for it to not come
be good at it.
Perfect, or to not even be good at it in the beginning, and that good things take time and they take effort and work and noticing what you did well and noticing where you need to make improvements. So as long as your student feels like, oh, it's okay, I tried very hard to do this well and I can improve it and it can always evolve to something better, they're going to be excited to try. A lot of times you see upper level gymnasts, if they have a coach that's very, very strict on them. I know even from myself in training, I had one coach that she intended to make everyone always concentrate very hard and always aim for the best. But she was so strict with it that she crossed the line of you could never make any mistake. It didn't matter if it was the first time you were learning something, you couldn't do it wrong. And then if you did, it was like berating you that you made any error. And for me, I didn't have her until I was like 11 or 12. So I had already been doing gymnastics for a while. And it boggled my mind, even at that young age, to be like, well, of course I'm going to make a mistake. I need the room to make the mistake. And then you just tell me how to fix it. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to be really excited to try to do it better. But then it became a constant thing and it didn't help. at all, because of course the gymnast, like we said in the beginning, has that perfectionist mindset. They have that mindset. They don't want to make a mistake. They want to be flawless. They want to feel like they're the best all the time. They don't want to disappoint themselves or their coach or anybody. And then if you just berate them that they made an error, they are going to eventually collapse internally and not be able to focus on anything else other than I don't want to make a mistake.
Because
And
of course, one second, because
that's
of
what
course,
you don't
like
want.
someone who is a perfectionist, they judge themselves based on their
Right.
execution
Sure.
and based off the outcome of their execution. Understand? Because they're not gonna look. For example, you go to a competition, and last week you fell on floor on the double layout, but this week you did that double layout very good, and you won floor. But in your best event, you didn't win, and not because you did a major mistake. It's the other person execute better. Just understand. And now you are a perfectionist. You're gonna be like, you're not gonna be happy with yourself because you didn't win that event that you're supposed to win, and you're gonna miss the fact that you did better on the event that you struggled the week before.
If someone doesn't help you point it out.
Because perfectionists, that's what you're gonna look at the outcome. Even though you did good, the outcome was not the best. Then for you, that's not better. Understand? Then for you, you're gonna look like, oh, I had a poor performing, when actually you didn't.
Right.
You actually did better. But at the same time,
Right.
the competitor did also better, and they did a little better than you.
Right.
Understand? And that's just life, and you have to teach those skills to the athletes. They have to understand how competition works. They cannot expect I go to a competition and everybody gets a medal. Yeah, you can do that at a low level, but then life hits you. When real life comes around, you're gonna realize that not everybody gets a medal. Understand? Life is on merit, right?
Merit, yes.
Everything in life, like the Olympic champion becomes Olympic champion based on merit.
Right, how well they did their job.
How well they did that job in that moment. You can come and look at Simone Biles. She go to Tokyo, to Japan. Everybody was be like, oh my gosh, she's gonna, like even before that, to the Olympic trials. She come into the Olympic trials. Everybody thought it's gonna be like a walk to the park for Simone Biles. And she lost to Sunisa Ali at the Olympic trials. She go to the Olympics, right? She didn't do her job. She couldn't concentrate. And Sunisa Ali became Olympic champion. Then everybody looks and they are shocked. It's like, how that happened? But that's real life.
Right.
Understand? It's just how it is. Someone had to teach her too that can happen even to her. The best of the best in the world is never 100% that you are going to win.
Right.
Understand? And you have to know that. You have to be educated into the fact that, someone else may do better than me.
That's really, really important to know that you are never 100% undefeatable, and someone else is always going to come along and do better than you at some point. Even if you're the best for a long period of time, there's always someone else that's chasing your success and aiming to enhance themselves. And that's, for me, that's one of the first things when I started gymnastics. My mother always told me, because it did come naturally to me, and she was always aiming to not let me be getting like cocky with myself. And she always told me, like every practice, you did really well, but remember, somebody can always come along and be better than you. And if and when that happens, you never look at them with jealousy. You always admire what they achieved, because you know how hard they worked in order to do it, because look how hard you work every day. So that's the other part of this perfectionism, and being able to lose, like we've discussed before, and lose humbly and win humbly. And it's helpful to learn all of these things during training. Most students don't train just by themselves. They're immersed in another group of students in which everybody learns at a different pace. Some skills come easier to some students, and the same skill can take very long for another student to learn. And it's not always a consistent pattern of what comes to who the fastest. So it's very important that they learn that it's normal to learn at your own pace. It's normal to fall down, as long as you get back up and try again. And nothing is permanent unless you let it become that way inside your mind. you're in control of progress and you're in control of succeeding after a fall.
And look, you look at combat sports have examples like this where they have an athlete that dominates the sport for a long time, like I don't know, 30 fights and all, like boxing, MMA, kickboxing. And then once all of a sudden a new name comes around that people barely know, and the guy goes in there and knock out the champion. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, we thought this guy is unbeatable. Was like, look, I'm fair, like although like I'm speaking against Russian being in the Olympics a lot because of the war in Ukraine. I'm fair with Russian athletes. They have good athletes. And one athlete like that was in MMA. His name is Fedor Emelianenko. He's retired now. That guy for 10 years dominated the MMA world. He was like 30 fights and all actually.
Yeah.
And everybody was terrified of the guy, like terrified. He will show up in a ring or in a cage and people will just look in his eyes and his face was just like, no matter what, smiling, not smiling. Was a fight in Japan, and when the company that was doing the fights at the time was called Pride before UFC. And this guy, Kevin Renderman is his name, former wrestler, big guy, huge, pick him up and toss him on his head. Like people took pictures with him like hitting the canvas and his face didn't change. His face expression was the same, like he stood up and submitted the guy. Everybody was expecting him to break his neck. They called him a cyborg or something like that. They said he's
indestructible.
Indestructible. Sorry, my English again. Right? And everybody was terrified of him. And then once all of a sudden, this MMA fighter from Brazil, Fabricio Verdun, comes around. They put him to fight here in America, and I think it was Triforce. And the guy submits him in an armbar. Nobody expect that. And everybody was like, whoa, Fedor lost. Yes, he's human. Understand? Like, we're not gods. Some other human did better than him. Maybe if you put them to fight 10 more times, Fedor will win every other time. But in that moment, Fabricio Verdun was better than him. And that shows the world that he's beatable. In that moment, people were like, oh yeah, I want to fight Fedor. But before that, nobody was like, if you tell them like, oh, I'm going to give you $1 million to fight Fedor Emelianenko. They're like,
no, thank you.
You know what? But the second he lost, everybody was like, wow, I can do that,
Yeah.
Well,
and you have those examples in every sport with athletes that dominate and then they lose.
What I keep learning through our conversations is the depth and the nuance of coaching that I don't think most people realize. That you have to see into the hearts and minds of the athletes, and you're there to not just to teach them, but to protect them and guide them, and on things that they're going to take for the rest of their lives. So
yes. But you see, that's the example with Fedor is this too. He did lose that fight. He came back and he won another fight. He lost a few more and he won another ones. But his performing was always spectacular. Like he didn't shut himself down just because he lost. Understand? He told people then like, yeah, I'm human. I lost. That's what God maybe wants for me, to lose, for people to see that I'm human. That was his explanation. And the guy stood a champion to the end of his career. Like he always, like even now, like I think if someone brings him back to fight, people will buy the pay-per-view. But why? Because he was a real champion. He behaved like one. Losing or winning, he always was the same performing, the same guy.
Right. Well, Michal shared with me a couple stories about his competitive experiences and how they differed drastically depending on how his coach approached him. So I'd like for him to share them because it's always fascinating to learn what's going through an athlete's mind during competition.
Like, for me, I grew up in different society, like different environment.
And how the coach can impact, even if they're, it's inadvertent. It's just, it's helpful to hear stories like this because you can learn as a coach maybe how not to do it or how to do it and where to make your own adjustments, and the same for athletes.
But it's exactly what I said a little bit earlier when I said that the coach at competition has to have a positive attitude and a positive presence. Like you cannot show fear and stress in front of the athlete during competition, no matter how bad the competition goes or good, because you can do it in both directions.
Right.
Like the athlete is in a position to win the gold medal or around at the Olympic Games, and you are like, okay, last event, last routine, let's do it. You can win. You're going to be the first one in the world to be blah, blah, blah. And then you put so much pressure on the athlete that by the time the athlete gets to the event, they're already broken mentally. Understand? Because they already are in stress competing. Or you can have the opposite direction. Like they have a little bad execution on the first event, and then you get so stressed as a coach that you show them like, oh my gosh, now you're not going to win the all around, and they're going to perform poorly the rest of it. Understand? Where you can uplift them, and maybe the competitor is going to make mistakes now watching your athlete going up, you know. And for me, that's why, like I was going to tell you a little early too, when I talk about competition, was like I sit with my athletes at competition for a reason. Remember I said in the past that maybe sometimes when I go to competition, people think I'm cocky because even at the lowest of the lowest levels in gymnastics, the youngest, I'm sitting with them, I'm talking to them, I'm keeping them focused to compete good for themselves, you know. I'm not looking around to talk to people or like take selfies. And my job there is for the athlete. I'm there for that athlete to help them perform the best, you know. And that's the job of every coach. But anyways, going back to stories, yes, it's important for the coach to have the knowledge to not stress the athlete during competition. And I'm going to give you an example. Like I was competing, I think, my second year or my first or second year. I don't really remember, a long time ago. But I was very, very young. And I told you before, Mario Surzica in my country is the only Olympic champion in men's gymnastics that ever won that gold medal. And I think he will die one day and he will still be the only one. Like nobody else is going to achieve that. I hope Romania is going to build him a statue for that. He deserves it. That guy is a hero in my country. But anyways, I was competing against him. And this guy was like a mini Nadia Comaneci aura into the men's gymnastics at the time, even though he was young. He would get perfect tens on power horse like every competition, you know. And first, for example, all the coaches, not just my coach, they would pressure us with that aura that he had. Like I was good at power horse, but my coach always would let me know that he's better than me. He's like, oh, see, he's getting 10, he's getting this, you can't beat him, he's so good. He's like, you're not that good. Like, obviously, even if I could be better than him mentally as a 9 years old, I was like, okay, this guy is a god. I don't know, like he was born, I don't know, Zeus, and I don't know what other god make him, but he's no, because that's what my coaches would put in my mind. And I told you, it was not just my coach, it was every other coach everybody, I think, in my age group at the time competing against Mario Surzica was like, hey, like he will be like terrified, which you shouldn't in the end of the day. But anyways, I was at this competition. It was like a national championships. And it was a national championships where you could win individually an event, but you could win as a team. And my coach, my personal coach, was on the panel, the judging panel for pommel horse. And we got with the team to the pommel horse. And I think before me, Urzica team was on pommel horse, and then they moved and we came behind them. But I think Urzica didn't do his best routine. Like he got a 9.8 or something like that. But I had a very good pommel horse routine. And now like my coach came to me and I was getting chuck. I was at the chuck box. And it's like, it's always like you go to get chuck while someone else competes. Sure. Understand? They get ready to compete and you go. And my teammate was getting ready to compete. He was waiting. And I walked to the chuck box. Then my coach stood up from the table and walked to me and grabbed me by my shoulders and looked at me down like that. It's like, you have to do this routine. Like he tried to, I think, motivate me, but didn't, you know, I mean, like freak me out more because I already like, I knew I can win because I saw Marius like not getting perfect 10. And now I knew like, okay, he didn't get perfect 10. I can beat him. Maybe. And I already pressure myself going from floor to pommel horse that when I get to pommel horse, I want to have the best routine. I warm up very good, you know. And my coach saw it. And like when he grabbed me, he like stormed me up and like, oh, you have to do it. Like, if you don't do it, like, you're going to get in trouble. And he walked back to the table. My teammate competed. I took chuck. I turned around. I salute the judge. I put my hands out. I jump on the pommels to do a circle, and I just fell. Boom.
Oh no.
I couldn't, I was like, my body was shaking. I was terrified of what's going to happen if I don't perform that routine the way my coach told me. Like, I was already stressing myself. Now we talk about perfectionist and desire to win.
So
I
the
was
coach
already
pushed you
putting
the
that
wrong
pressure
way.
on me.
Yeah, he pushed
Understand?
you.
And when my coach came to me, I, I was like, I'm done, And after I, obviously, my nightmare was becoming reality, because obviously after I fall, like, yeah, I got in trouble. Like, I was walking through the hotel trying to hide for my coaches to not see me, like I would get slapped every single second they saw my face, and then traveling back home into the train, I was thinking, I was like hiding in that cart over there, like behind my teammates, for them to not see me. But you see, that's wrong, right?
Yeah.
And I think like two years after, I was maybe 11 at the time. 11, yes, I think around 11. And the story is, it's a little funny, because I'm going to explain you why. My coach, we was going to same thing, same competition was, and I was competing a double flip on floor, but I never did it by myself. Like, I told my coach I'm going to do it in competition. I felt it, like in the gym, like he would spot me a little bit, and I was like, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it at competition, because in my gym, we didn't have a floor. My gym was very small. Like, we will put the pommel horse, move it from the wall in the middle. I will put mats. I will do pommel horse. I will move the pommel horse back. Like, the gym was like very, very small, not compared with what we have here anyway. And we will go to another gym in the capital where they will let us once a week or twice a week. We will go there for an hour and do vault, because we didn't have vault either in the gym. And we'll do vault and floor. And floor, like, they always told me that, because I was skinny, they were like, you can't jump, this guy is too skinny, but once of a sudden I start jumping off the floor, having a floor with a little bouncy, like I start jumping, and I was good at flipping, actually. And I started doing this double flip, and my coach got excited, because now also I was very young doing a double flip at the time. I think even today, to be 11 and do a double flip, it's pretty cool. But at the time was not so many, and I was not strong at floor, but now once of a sudden I was becoming strong at floor. And anyways, we get to the competition, and my coach, the whole way to the competition and back home in training, he told me like, oh, don't worry, just go there and try to do it the best you can, just pay attention to technique. And he'd give me the right explanation. Sure. I got to competition, and it's funny because he was on the panel for judging on that event on floor. And he had to come out of the panel to spot me, because I never did it. He said like, okay, I'm going to spot you for warm-up, and then you go in competition. And he spot me for warm-up. Obviously, the adrenaline, I was excited. The floor was like a competition floor with springs, which at the time was very rare for a floor to have springs. It was actually like a wood panel with like foam. And this floor was pretty bouncy. And I remember the cover of the floor was also not the carpet, was a foamy cover like today. And the floor was like more bouncy. And I was excited. And he came out, he spotted me, and then he had to go back to judge. He judged few guys, and then my turn comes. And same thing, he take a walk from the table, comes to me, and just like very calm. He grabbed me for the shoulder, the same way he did it 2 years before. Looks at me and smiling. He's like, hey, just go on that floor. Like, don't forget, keep your legs tight in around the handspring and bring your hands up. Grab your legs in a double and just don't open. No matter what, don't open. Now, he was very proud, I think, also for himself that I will do a double. Understand? Because not many kids will do a double at the time. And he was very nice with me. I got on that floor. I did that first pass was double. I did it so high. I stick the landing, bam. And from there, I jump on that floor like I was in a trampoline. I got second place. I beat guys that I shouldn't ever beat on floor. Like, those guys were so much better than me, like by a lot. Their tricks was like more difficult even than they'll do double with a full. How you call it?
Double?
No, double full. No.
Double full.
No, suk, full with a
full
double.
In.
Full in.
Or
yeah.
double.
They will do a full in, right? I will do just a double. They will do a double flip with a full twist. Yes. And I will do just a double. Those guys was very good. They was like professional on that event, And I beat the majority of them. I got second place, And why? It's just because I was allowed to make a mistake. Understand? And in that moment, when I was going to perform that routine, I was not stressed with the fact that if I don't land it, my coach is going to berate me. Understand? Because my coach made me comfortable.
That's
I don't
right.
know if he meant it in that moment or not,
Mhm.
but he did make me so comfortable that I didn't even think about not making it. I thought about exactly the correction that he gave me.
Yeah.
I thought about the technicality corrections that he gave me, and I go and I perform it, and I got the silver medal. You know, I was not the champion, but I was almost there, you know. But that's funny, you see, like,
Great.
because it's two different approaches by the same person, actually. Understand?
Right.
The same person approached me twice differently, and I performed on my best event that I was doing the routine over and over and over again, almost perfectly in training. I messed it up on Pommel Horse, and the trick that I never did it by myself, and a routine that I never actually competed by myself, the whole routine, right? Because he always put me on double. I perform it almost flawless, perfectly. Why? Because the second one, I had the comfort of making mistakes. I have the comfort of falling. I have the comfort of not succeeding.
Yeah.
That nothing bad will going to happen. Nobody's going to berate me. Nobody's going to hate me. Understand? And that gives me the comfort to execute correctly. When the first one, I was on the event where I could easily win if I perform it, but I didn't. You know, and it's hard because you see the first performing on Pommel Horse, that performing that I told you that I failed, that performing followed me psychologically to my whole entire career, because I always thought about myself, what a loser I am, because I could win, I could beat this guy that was the best, take his place, but I didn't, and it was all my fault. Understand? And took me to get to be like 30 something years old, coach, and one day realize by coaching that my athlete put me in the same situation when they fell, and look at it and it's like, wait a second. And then to click in your head is like, that was not my fault. Understand? I was just young. I didn't understand. But my whole entire career, I will look back always. Every time I will go to a competition, I will not have the best performing. I will go back to that performing.
In your head, yeah.
Yes,
Absolutely.
because I've always been exposed to my opponent, Marius Suzdika. Understand? I will always compete against him. And every time I will go against him in competition, I will remember that time. Understand?
Yeah.
And that's why you see, like, coaches, sometimes they don't think that far. They think it's just the moment, that moment in that competition. But that moment carry you. Understand?
Well,
and that's why it's very important at a young age to teach them to cope correctly. Cope with falling and not winning, you know, and desire to be the best, you know, desire, go there, go try to be the best. Don't be shy.
And in moments that they maybe didn't have their best performance, to teach them to self-reflect on the positive parts of it, because there's always something positive within that negative. You just have to find it, and you have to emphasize that, and the pursuit of wanting to be better and the pursuit of wanting to be great. And that's what you were able to focus on when you performed well. You could focus on your technique and just be proud of the fact that you were trying to do something for the first time rather than fearing doing something that you normally do well the wrong way.
And it's important to give the corrections and the reasons why your performing was not good. Positivity. I said I'm going to practice this word, and I apologize. I still didn't get it. Say it again. Positively. Yes, positively. You know, because look, for me, like, I'm not going to lie to you. I have moments when, for example, my coach will tell me on ring, it's like, don't worry, you're just skinny, you're not strong, it's fine. You did your best, it's okay, you're skinny guy. You know, in their head was the nicest thing they ever told me. But for me, it was just like, yeah, you're never going to make it because look at that guy. He's strong. You are like not capable. Understand? When my coach could say the same thing without, you're just skinny, you're not going to do it. It's not your best event. No, why?
Right.
Because I told you, like, I never been good at rings till the day I decided on my own, no, I want to be good. And I had to find a way how to do my conditioning training to be able to do the tricks that nobody thought I can do. And that was not just on rings, it was even on parallel bars. Like, I remember back in 1992, I think they started, was those double flips over the bars on parallel bars. You'll go from a handstand and do double flip and catch the bar on your arms here, boom. Or you go forward to the double flip. And I was very good at parallel bars. And I go in the gym and I told the coach, I'm like, hey, I want to do this. And he looks at me, he's like in front of everybody. He's like, are you crazy? Don't you see how skinny you are? Like, if you land like this, your thorax is going to open, man. Like, you can't do it. He put my teammates to do it because they was jacked. Those guys had muscles. I was like, are you kidding me? I left the gym at the time. I switched to another gym. I switched the clubs. And when I got back in the gym in the new club. The first thing I did, I go on parallel bars and I did this double over the bars. I become one of the best in the country, not one, the best in Romania to execute those.
Wow.
I will do them so high, so good that they will be like, wow, you know. But in the beginning, they told me I'm skinny. My coach told me like, oh, you can't do it. You're just skinny. You know, he didn't look at the fact that I was technical enough. I was strong enough for the body type I had, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sometimes coaches has to pay attention to, because you try to be nice with an athlete and tell them like, oh, you're not going to do double flip on floor, double layout. Look at your legs. They are too skinny, you know. No, just be smart. Go there and say, you know what? You want to do that double layout? Let's do some squats. Let's do some jumps. Let's do this. Let's do that to strengthen your legs. You need to strengthen your legs more.
Find the solution.
You know, you find the solution, but positive. Not in the way that you make the athlete feel like they don't belong there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's something coaches have to learn, that because they can do it without even meaning it.
Right.
You know, you can have a coach saying something like that to an athlete without realizing that they actually hurt the athlete, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That goes back to the importance of communication.
Yes.
Because you need to tell your athletes. I mean, we flat out tell them, if we ever say something and it makes you feel upset, please know it's on accident, it's inadvertent, and you need to tell us that you did feel in a
But
certain
also,
way.
if I tell you something
know?
that makes you feel uncomfortable, because I tell you like, okay, you have to work harder, okay,
Right.
or you have to pay more attention, okay. It's a fact, you know. You have to do that if you want to get, because I give you that advice not to make you feel bad about yourself. I give you that advice to make the change in order for you to get better. Like
Right.
if I tell you straight your leg 100 times, it's not to point out that you're not smart,
Right.
you know,
You
because
just
they
need to
take correction personally sometimes in gymnastics. Because think about, in one practice, you go up on the beam and you are like 8 years old and you learn a handspring step out. Yeah, you're gonna bend your legs out of 20 repetition. You're gonna bend your legs 19 times. But 19 times, I'm gonna tell you as a coach, straight your right leg, straight your left leg, or whatever leg you bend, you know, because my job is to make you make the correction. Then you have to teach them that part too, when they take correction not personal. You know, they take correction as something positive, because correction is a negativity.
Sure.
You know, I point out something bad that you are doing, and I point that out in order for you to make the correction, the adjustment, and to have a positive outcome. Then they have to learn that part too.
Yeah. Have to take everything
Yes.
as a positive, and they have to be excited about the improvements they could make, and they have to look at the mistake like it's a part of their learning process, and a chance to get better, and an opportunity to make a correction and improve upon themselves. And then it doesn't become something that's mundane or that's negative, and it can help them go through the rest of their life with that same mindset.
But that's the room of falling, right?
Comfort of
The
falling.
comfort of falling. Like you fall, and yes, you're gonna get the correction. You stand up and you go back and you try again.
Those are great life lessons to learn as a child. Most people maybe never learn that and go
Yeah.
through life struggling. So gymnastics is a great trainer for life, physically and mentally.
Not just gymnastics, all the sports, if they are done correctly at a young age, they are a very good tool
If
for.
if you had good coaches, as I
If they are
told
done
you,
correctly, yes.
I had not good coaches in all my young sporting, because I was from a tiny little town. Yeah, and I really appreciate your professionalism and your mindset. I think you guys are great coaches, and I think all your student athletes are benefiting from that.
Thank you
We
so
hope so.
much.
Thank you.
We hope so. And I'm going to wrap it up here, and I'm going to leave it on a note of what you just said, because we are going to do a whole episode on that. That, it shouldn't matter if you're from a small town or the biggest city. If you have a coach, no matter what level of skill knowledge they have, because that can always be improved upon and should always be improved upon, they should always be there to be your mentor and to take into consideration that you're going to carry the moments that you spend with them for the remainder of your life, the emotional moments. And the next episode, I think we're going to do maybe about uplifting coaches to realize how important
Yes, it's
they are
important.
in a child's life, and to help them discover some tools that they have to become really a part of the child's foundation emotionally, and provide them the tools to carry them, because everybody could do that. Even if they're a coach that just is starting off and they don't have much knowledge about skills, they can make sure that they're that person for
The
that
skill you
child.
can learn
The
it
skills can be learned
if you give someone opportunities, you know. And I'm gonna end with this: like, you are the product of the environment that you are surrounding with.
Mm-hmm.
Then, as the more positive that environment is, the more uplifting is, the more you're gonna develop in something special.
Mm-hmm.
Understand? And that's very important for people to understand. Like, the more you keep the environment dark and dirty, the more problem you're going to have. You know, the less success you're going to have. You know, you're going to damage people around you. But the more uplifting, the more positive the surrounding is, the better.
Right. And that's why we named our program Illuminating Champions, because we want to keep spreading that light, and it can be passed from one to another and continue onwards eternally. So we want to thank you, Mark, for being that person that uplifts us in our life as our coach. And we want to thank all of our listeners for following along and supporting us. And we just want to remind you, if you're loving the content that you're seeing, please subscribe on YouTube or Apple Podcasts, whatever platform it is that you love to listen on. Subscribe, hit that like button, and make sure to leave us your most honest feedback. We want to hear what you think about what you're hearing from us.
No, I want to hear just the good one.
We want to hear it
Like
all.
in Russia.
We want to hear it all. So thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode.
This is America. It's free.
And we'll see you again on the next one. Thank you for listening to Illuminating Champions. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for our next episode.